Hello everyone, welcome to my class. Myself Janisha from St. Joseph Composite PU College, Vijaypur. In the previous episode, we have discussed about the presentation of data in that first forms of presentation of data, that is textual presentation of data. There we studied that the data which express with the help of text or the statement, and also we have learned that some drawbacks regarding the textual method of presentation of data. And today in this episode we are going to discuss about second form of presentation of data, that is tabular presentation of data. Then what is tabular presentation of data? Here how the data are expressed, or in which method the data are expressed that we can discuss here. So as we know that tabular means what? Table. Tabular means table. So if the data which are expressed or presented, that is in the form of table, means rows and columns, that is called as tabular presentation of data. That means rows and column means what? That is table. So the table always consists rows and columns, right? So that if the data which are presented in particular rows and columns, then it is called as a tabular presentation of data. So this one example here, you just see here. According to this table here, the literacy in India by sex and location per person. This is what the title. Yes. So here, according to this, we can observe the data, that is according to location wise, and also gender wise, rural wise, as well as urban wise, right? So according to gender wise, we can classify male and female. Okay, this is the matter regarding the literacy in India. Yes, and again we can classify areas on the basis of rural area as well as the urban area. So we can finally conclude that according to this table easily. How? That is the male population. Okay, so their literacy rate highest in urban areas than the rural areas. Yes, and what about females? So females, and what about females? Females literacy rate, that is very low comparing to male, that is also especially low in rural area, and in urban areas how much? That is 80%. So both the side we can conclude that so male population literacy rate is high in both urban as well as the rural comparing to the female education or literacy rate in India. So this is what easy way to find out the what the tabular presentation. Okay, suppose if it is the statement like elaborated way or explained way, means that is we need to go through each and every points and each and every what data or the statement, and it is very difficult to recognize or easily recognize the matters. Now let me discuss about what are the advantages of tabulation. Tabulation or the tabular presentation of data, its uses or the advantages we can discuss here. Okay, first one, it organizes data for further statistical treatment and decision making. That means, so tabular presentation of data which helps to or which organize the data in statistical treatment, or as well as we can take easily or we can make the decision making very easily. Why? Because as you know that according to that table, you observe that literacy rate in India, both the urban and rural areas, both the genders male and female. So we can finally conclude that okay, so female literacy level, that is low comparing to male population in both the rural as well as urban areas, so that we can make a necessary decisions or decision making through the help of that data. Okay, then next we'll see Then what are the classification used in tabulation, or what are the classification of a tabulation or the tabular presentation of a data? There are mainly we classified into four kinds. First one is qualitative classification, quantitative classification, temporal classification, and also fourth one, spatial classification. Then now let me discuss regarding this in detail. First one, qualitative classification. Then what is qualitative classification? If the classification is done according to attributes like social status, physical status, nationality, etc., then it is called as qualitative classification. So what is qualitative classification of presentation of data? That means if the data which are classified on the basis of attributes, okay, that attributes are like a social status, means rich, poor, like that, okay, or we can classify the data according to on the basis of physical status, or we can nationality, on the basis of nationality we can classify the data, for example Indian citizen, Indian or American, so like that, okay. So this is called as the qualitative classification of a data. Then second one, quantitative classification. So then what is quantitative classification? In quantitative classification, the data are classified, that is on the basis of characteristics, and which are in quantitative in nature. So the quantitative classification of data means here data or the informations which are classified, that is on the basis of characteristics, okay. So that characteristics which are in the quantitative in nature, so this is called as quantitative classification of data. In other words, we can say that these characteristics can be measured quantitatively. So quantitative classification, this we can measure quantitatively. For example, age, height, production, income, etc. So these are what? Quantitative characteristics. Okay, so the height of the person, production of wheat or income of the individual, etc. So these are all example for quantitative classification. So if the classes are formed by assigning limits, then it is called as the class limits. So what is class limit? Class limit means that is two ends of class, we can say that. That means if the classes are assigned in different what the limits, okay, for the values of the characteristics under the consideration, that is what the class limit. So this is regarding the quantitative classification. So don't confuse. So qualitative classification is what? The data which are classified on the basis of attributes, okay. And quantitative classification is what? This is classified on the basis of characteristics, okay, that is in the quantitative in nature. Third one, temporal classification. In this classification, time becomes the classifying variable and data are categorized according to time. That means data or variables which are categorized or which are classified, that is on the basis of time, then it is called as temporal classification. And how can you say that then what the time or the variables which can be classified, that is on the basis of hours, days, weeks, months, years, etc. So this is what the temporal classification of data. So remember, so if the data which are classified on the basis of what time, or if the variables which are classified on the basis of a particular time, okay, that is during a year or month or days, etc., then it is called as temporal classification of data. And the fourth one, spatial classification of data. Spatial classification or the geographical classification of data, which means if the data which are classified on the basis of place, a particular place, then it is called as a spatial classification. Okay, so the place may be a village, town, block, district, state, country, etc. So this is called spatial classification. So what is spatial classification? That means if the data which are classified on the basis of a particular geographical location, then which is called as spatial classification of data. Okay students, so these are the what main classification of tabular presentation of data. So once again just revise it. First one, which one is? That is qualitative classification, quantitative classification, temporal classification, and also spatial classification. So in the next episode, we'll continue with further more concepts regarding the the tabular. In the next episode, we'll further continue regarding the some more concepts. Until that, some exercise questions will be there from this episode. You just note down these questions and submit on time. The questions like, what is spatial classification of data? Question number 1, what is spatial classification of data? Question number 2, what is tabular presentation of data? What is tabular presentation of data? So only these 2 questions you need to answer and submit on time. Then we will see in next episode. Thank you.